Ew! I don't like it. I don't want to have to use that. This is a Chatty Cathy.
Please, for your feet! Blue shoes, jump straight to the moon.
Strangest 1960s toys ever made. Did your childhood toys ever come with government warnings about radiation exposure?
Clackers.
What are clackers?
The hottest toy in the Netherlands.
Today, I'll show you bizarre 1960s toys that literally sent children to the emergency room. The disturbing marketing tactics convinced parents that these hazards were perfectly safe, and the shocking reason some of these death traps are worth thousands of dollars to collectors today. But first, let me show you a toy that heated up to potentially dangerous temperatures and forever changed how we think about safety standards.
From the lost world, a creature created.
Number 25. Strange Change Machine, released in 1967 by Mattel. Remember that toy that felt like you were playing with dinosaur fossils come to life? If you were a kid in the late 1960s with a strange change machine, your bedroom probably turned into a prehistoric laboratory every weekend.
The thing about this toy is this was essentially, here, Johnny, play with this hot plate. Because this is the strange change machine.
This bizarre little contraption looked like a combination between a waffle iron and a spaceship. You'd place these small, hard plastic time capsules onto a metal plate that heated up to an alarming temperature.
In our family, we opened up Christmas presents. One year in 1967 or 1968, we opened up a gift on Christmas Eve, and it was the Strange Change Machine.
And watch and wonder as they expanded into colorful dinosaurs and monsters. What made this toy particularly questionable was the scorching hot metal plate that could easily burn curious fingers. Parents were essentially giving their children a miniature version of an industrial heat press with temperatures hot enough to melt plastic.
But what I didn't know is that there was such thing as memory plastic. Bizarre children's toy manufactured in the late 60s.
My science teacher actually brought one to class as a geology lesson, until Bobby Miller's dinosaur caught fire and set off the school sprinkler. The principal banned all home toys from science class after that, but we considered it the most exciting lesson of the year. Nothing captivates fourth graders like an emergency evacuation.
Now, speaking of toys that definitely wouldn't pass today's safety inspections.
Girls, here's the all-new Suzy Homemaker Sweet Shop.
Number 24. Suzy Homemaker, released in 1966 by Topper Toys. If you had a Suzy Homemaker set, you probably felt like the coolest kid on the block with your very own working kitchen. These pastel-colored miniature appliances looked just like Mom's, but sized perfectly for little hands eager to play house. The collection included a refrigerator, stove, mixer, and even an oven, all in charming turquoise and decorated with flower patterns. The most impressive part? These weren't just pretend appliances. They actually worked, particularly that oven, which could heat up to a very real 350 degrees Fahrenheit. What nobody seemed concerned about was giving children actual working appliances that could cause serious burns. That cute little oven was essentially a fire hazard disguised as a toy, capable of causing second-degree burns or starting fires if left unattended. My sister used hers to cook dinner for my parents' anniversary. Tiny burnt cookies that Dad heroically ate with a straight face while Mom quietly hid hers in a napkin. The next morning, I found those hidden cookies in the trash, each with a perfect bite mark, as evidence of Mom's commitment to protecting her daughter's culinary confidence.
Nothing says preparing girls for domestic life quite like miniature working appliances that could literally scar them for life. Do you agree?
Number 23. Slip and Slide, created in 1961 by Wham-O. If you had a slip and slide, you were the neighborhood hero on hot summer days.
Ready for a wild, wet ride?
That bright yellow plastic sheet stretched across your lawn was like a beacon for local kids. The cold water splashing and the smell of wet grass meant summer fun was starting. The design was simple, a long plastic strip with ridges to channel water from your garden hose. The best part was that satisfying squish sound as you belly flopped and zoomed down.
Slip and slide.
Cool water splashing your face while grass tickled your arms through the plastic. It magically turned an ordinary lawn into a water park. Kids would run, dive, and slide with squeals of delight.
For Robert Carrier, it was the day he came home to his Lakewood, California home to see the hose running on his concrete driveway.
What nobody worried about then was how dangerous it could be for bigger bodies.
In 1987, Michael Hubert shattered his neck on a neighbor's slip and slide invented by Robert Carrier, sold by Wham-O Kransco, and a jury slammed the toy as defective, handing him $12.3 million. Kransco later paid $7.5 million, then turned around and scored another $17 million from its insurer for dragging its feet. One summer prank, $24 million in payouts.
My cousin Jimmy brought his to our family reunion. Uncle Bob tried showing off with a running dive, came to a dead stop with a terrible groan, and spent the day with ice packs while we kids continued sliding.
What was your favorite strange toy from this list? Drop it in the comments below, or maybe something we missed entirely. The most interesting comment will be featured in our next video.
For elastic bubble plastic. Plastic bubbles from a tube.
Number 22. Super Elastic Bubble Plastic. Released in 1960 by Wham-O. If you had super elastic bubble plastic, you experienced the weird magic of creating colorful bubbles from goo. The small tubes of thick, sticky stuff came in bright neon colors that smelled sharp and chemical.
All you do is stick it, blow it, throw it.
A smell no kid today would recognize, but that meant pure fun back then. The process was simple. Squeeze out a blob of the rainbow-colored vinyl goop, poke in the little plastic straw, and blow carefully. The goo would stretch and expand into a wobbly, shimmering bubble that hardened in the air. When you finished, your creation felt like crinkly plastic and caught the light like a jewel.
Half the fun is popping!
What made it amazing was watching something transform from gunk to a beautiful bubble right before your eyes. Kids would compete to make the biggest bubble without popping it.
Get 6 tubes of super elastic bubble plastic and 3 super straws for $19.99.
What nobody worried about then was that the vinyl contained toxic chemicals, and kids were basically huffing dangerous fumes with every bubble they blew. The vapors were flammable and harmful to breathe. My brother once made a giant green bubble that lasted 3 days on our bookshelf, until Mom discovered where that strange smell was coming from and tossed his prized creation straight into the trash.
A 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 5, a 6.
Number 21. Sixfinger. Released in 1965 by Topper Toys. Remember that weird toy that made you feel like you had a superpower growing right out of your hand? Sixfinger was the strangest thing. A plastic purple finger that you'd wear over your own digits, turning your 5-fingered hand into something decidedly not human. It looked like some alien appendage or a bizarre prop from a sci-fi movie.
With caps that exploded. The finger was also a ballpoint pen and had special missiles. And you could put a folded up note in it and pass notes around secretly in class.
A chunky purple finger with a gold ring around it. But this wasn't just for show. This extra digit was actually a multifunction toy gun that could shoot caps, darts, messages, and even make secret signals.
10 fingers.
Yes. So
if
now
you had an 11th finger, you'd be able to do like, what percent? Like 600% more.
What made this toy particularly questionable was how it normalized pointing a weapon-shaped object at others. The projectiles might have been small, but they shot out with enough force to startle pets and potentially cause eye injuries if aimed carelessly. I wore mine to Sunday school, convinced I could secretly shoot a message to my friend during prayer time. The dart hit Sister Margaret's hymnal instead, earning me 2 weeks of bathroom cleaning duty. She kept that dart-pierced hymnal on her desk for years as a warning to other would-be classroom snipers. And if you thought having an extra finger that shot things was strange, wait until you hear about the toy that came with actual radioactive materials. Number 20. Belt Buckle Derringer. Released in 1959 by Mattel. If you had a belt buckle Derringer, you carried the coolest secret weapon in the neighborhood. This cleverly disguised toy gun looked just like an ordinary Western-style belt buckle. Shiny metal with decorative engravings that felt cool against your fingertips. With a quick flick of your thumb, the miniature gun would spring out from the buckle with a satisfying click. The metal mechanism was surprisingly realistic, mimicking the look and feel of an actual Derringer pistol that cowboys might have hidden. What made it amazing was the element of surprise. Kids could transform from ordinary to gunslinger in seconds. What nobody worried about then was that the toy could easily be mistaken for a real weapon, creating serious safety risks. Teachers and parents couldn't tell at a glance if a child was carrying a toy or an actual firearm. This controversial toy highlights how dramatically safety standards for children's products have changed over the decades.
The sun
Number 19. Swing Wing, released in 1965 by Transagram. Ever wanted to feel like your neck might snap clean off during playtime? The Swing Wing was that bizarre helicopter hat that had kids everywhere willingly risking whiplash for fun. This contraption was essentially a plastic beanie with a propeller-like attachment connected by a spring. You'd strap it to your head with the chin strap, then swing and bob your head around frantically to make the colored plastic blades spin and whirl above you. The concerning part was obvious to everyone except toy manufacturers, apparently. The repeated neck strain from violently swinging your head around could cause real injuries. The whiplash effect wasn't just theoretical. Kids actually hurt themselves trying to get those propellers spinning faster. I wore mine to school once, convinced I'd be the coolest kid at recess. After demonstrating my most vigorous head-swinging technique, I couldn't turn my neck for 3 days. The school nurse just sighed and said, "Another Swing Wing casualty," as she handed me an ice pack. Apparently, I was the 4th case that week. Now, if you thought wearing dangerous toys was strange, wait until you... Number 18. The Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab, released in 1950, sold until 1962. It was a portal to the atomic future, housed in a handsome red case with faux exotic leather trim. Opening it revealed the unmistakable scent of new electronics and the soft glow of the Geiger counter's indicator light. 3 genuine radiation sources nestled in protective containers alongside uranium ore samples that felt cool and heavy in young hands. Kids hunched over the Wilson cloud chamber, warm breath fogging the glass as they spotted the ghostly vapor trails of alpha particles. The spinthariscope revealed the mesmerizing dance of scintillations, tiny flashes from invisible atomic decay. The kit came with How Dagwood Splits the Atom comics, printed on that distinctive pulp paper with ink that left smudges on eager fingers. At $50, $520 today, it was extravagant, a dream gift few received. But those who did experience the thrill of America's atomic optimism when splitting atoms was tomorrow's promise rather than today's fear.
Some fun in the dark. Give a show.
Number 17. Kenner's Give-A-Show Projector, first released in 1959, popular throughout the 1960s. Remember those nights when you'd transform your bedroom wall into your own personal movie theater? If you had Kenner's Give-A-Show projector, you probably felt like a miniature film director creating magical shadow plays in the darkness. This toy looked like a chunky flashlight with a slot for inserting colorful film strips. You'd slide in your favorite cartoon characters, point it at the wall, and suddenly Mickey Mouse or Popeye would appear, enlarged and slightly distorted. While not dangerous in the way other toys on our list were, there was something undeniably eerie about the experience. The flickering, unstable images cast strange shadows that could trigger a child's vivid imagination in the darkened room. My brother and I would create elaborate horror stories using the projector, distorting the innocent cartoon images by bending the film strips or moving the projector erratically. Our masterpiece, Night of the Deranged Duck, sent our 5-year-old cousin screaming to his mother. Aunt Linda banned all projector shows during family visits after that incident. And if you thought projecting spooky shadows was concerning, wait until you hear about toys that launched actual flying hazards.
Flying Aces, U.S., Russian.
Number 16. Flying Aces, Sky Battle, released in 1966 by Ideal Toys. Did your toys ever double as accidental weapons? The Flying Aces, Sky Battle turned ordinary backyards into danger zones with its high-speed aerial assault capability. This battle set featured plastic planes with spinning propellers that launched into the air with remarkable force. Kids would pump the launcher to build up air pressure, then release the plane to watch it zoom across the yard, propellers whirling at startling speeds. What made this particularly hazardous was the complete lack of safety features on those spinning propellers. There was nothing to prevent curious fingers from getting caught in the blades, and the unpredictable flight patterns meant these miniature aircraft often dive-bombed directly toward faces.
Here he comes, greatest toy you've ever seen, and his name is Mr. Machine.
Number 15. Mr. Machine, first released in 1960 by Ideal Toys. Remember that robot toy that seemed to have a life of its own? If you had a Mr. Machine in the 60s, you probably spent hours watching this mechanical man march around your living room, ringing bells and making whirring noises. This transparent robot revealed all the gears and mechanisms inside, with a bright red hat, googly eyes, and arms that moved as he walked. The coolest part was that you could take him apart and reassemble him, supposedly teaching kids about mechanics. What made Mr. Machine problematic wasn't obvious at first glance, but became clear once children started playing. Those small plastic gears and metal parts were perfect choking hazards, and the edges of disassembled pieces were surprisingly sharp. I decided to upgrade my Mr. Machine by adding parts from my broken wristwatch. When I wound him up, he took 3 steps, made a terrible grinding sound, and exploded into pieces across our living room. My father, finding watch gears in the carpet weeks later, banned all improvements to toys without supervision. My brief engineering career ended before it began. And if one strange humanoid toy wasn't enough for your collection,
With Mattel's wonderful Thingmaker. It makes creepy.
Number 14. Thingmaker's Creeple People, released in 1965 by Mattel. Did you ever create your own bizarre little humanoids with faces that would haunt your dreams? Thingmaker's Creeple People let kids play mad scientist, cooking up rubbery little monsters with disturbingly human features. Similar to the Creepy Crawlers set, this toy featured metal molds in the shape of tiny human-like figures with exaggerated facial features. You'd pour vibrant-colored plastigoop into the molds, heat them on the dangerously hot plate, and out would come these strange little rubber people. What made these particularly disturbing wasn't just the burning hazard from the heating element, but the unsettling nature of the toys themselves.
At Christmas, and when the wait was finally over and Christmas morning at long last arrived, I was not disappointed because amongst many other toys was my Creeple People set.
These weren't cute dolls. They were bizarre, often grotesque figures with bulging eyes and contorted bodies. I created an entire family of these odd creatures with backstories so elaborate I would write them down in a special notebook. When my teacher discovered my Creeple People diaries during a routine desk check, she scheduled a parent-teacher conference. My mother proudly displayed my creative writing, while my teacher quietly suggested more conventional hobbies. If you thought those tiny monsters were alarming, wait until you see what passed for a toy weapon.
Your squad is ready for you to...
Number 13. Johnny 7 O.M.A. Gun, released in 1964 by Topper Toys. Remember when you could carry an entire arsenal in just one toy? The Johnny 7 O.M.A. One-Man Army gun was the ultimate weapon for backyard warfare. A massive plastic contraption that basically turned any kid into a one-child militia. This behemoth was nearly 3 feet long and packed 7 different weapons into one toy. A grenade launcher, anti-tank rocket, anti-bunker missile, rifle, machine gun, cap-firing pistol, and a bayonet for good measure. What made this toy particularly concerning was how it normalized an extreme level of firepower for children. The projectiles could fly with surprising force and distance, easily causing injuries when fired indoors or at siblings. When my cousin got one for Christmas, his status in our neighborhood instantly elevated to military dictator. Our backyard wars became decidedly one-sided until the great disarmament that occurred after he accidentally launched the anti-bunker missile through his grandmother's greenhouse. His mom converted the confiscated weapon into a rather menacing garden stake. And while we're on the topic of toys that could cause injury to unsuspecting children,
This is the Stomper Mobile Force Tank. It comes with a Stomper Mobile Force Bridge Buster set.
Number 12. Stomper Mobile, released in 1963 by Hasbro. Ever tried riding a glorified skateboard powered by your own stomping feet? The Stomper Mobile was that strange contraption that promised freewheeling fun, but delivered skinned knees and possible concussions instead. This odd vehicle consisted of a flat platform with 4 wheels and a tall handle extending upward. Kids would stand on the platform, grab the handle, and use a stomping motion to make it move forward, essentially converting leg power into forward momentum through a primitive gear system. What made this particularly dangerous was the complete lack of stability. These contraptions tipped over with alarming ease, sending children face first onto sidewalks. With no brakes to speak of, your only stopping method was either dragging your feet or finding something soft to crash into. My first and final Stomper Mobile ride ended at the bottom of Maple Street Hill, where I discovered that the toy had no way to handle curves or control speed on inclines. Mrs. Fitzgerald's prize rose bushes broke my fall, though not before I achieved what my father later described as remarkable airtime. The hospital bill exceeded the toy's price by about 20 times, and if physical injuries weren't enough, some toys decided to add chemicals to the mix.
Incredible edibles. Now. Delicious.
Number 11. Incredible Edibles, released in 1967 by Mattel. Remember that toy that let you cook up bugs that you could actually eat? Incredible Edibles took the concept of creepy crawlers and added a truly bizarre twist. These disgusting-looking insects were meant to go straight into your mouth. Instead of plastic, you used gobbledygook, an edible chemical substance that hardened into candy-like creatures. You'd pour in the brightly colored goop, heat it up, and out would come delicious worms, spiders, and other creepy critters. What made this toy particularly questionable was the confusing message of making food look like insects and encouraging children to play with heating elements before eating the results. The line between toxic toys and edible treats became dangerously blurred. Our neighborhood Incredible Edibles Club had strict rules about what colors could be mixed to create the most disgusting-looking yet still edible bugs. Green and purple made the most revolting worms, but adding red created a marbled effect that looked disturbingly realistic. We would dare each other to eat the creations while blindfolded, leading to at least one memorable stomach-pumping incident. Speaking of questionable toy concepts,
Please brush my hair. Okay, Daddy.
Number 10. Chatty Cathy was released in 1960 by Mattel. Remember that doll who wouldn't stop talking no matter how hard you tried to make her? If you had a Chatty Cathy in the early 60s, you probably felt like you had a real friend who always had something to say, whether you wanted to hear it or not. This innocent-looking doll with her blonde hair, freckles, and sweet dress seemed like any other, until you pulled the string coming out of her back. That's when she'd recite one of her 11 pre-recorded phrases in that distinctive childlike voice. What made this toy particularly unsettling wasn't apparent at first glance but became clear during late-night play sessions. The voice mechanism would sometimes slow down as batteries weakened, transforming her cheerful, "Please take me with you," into a disturbing, deep voice demand. During a weekend at my grandparents' house, I awoke at midnight to the sound of Chatty Cathy's voice coming from the closet, where I definitely hadn't left her. "I love you," boomed a demonic-sounding voice from the darkness. Grandpa found me sitting rigid in bed, staring wide-eyed at the closet door. The next morning, Chatty Cathy mysteriously needed to go to the doll hospital and was replaced with a silent teddy bear that couldn't speak, slow down, or move itself around the house at night. Number 9. Slumber Party Barbie, released in 1965 by Mattel. Remember when even your doll made you feel like you needed to watch your figure? The 1965 Slumber Party Barbie came with an accessory set that would spark outrage if released today. A bathroom scale, permanently set to 110 pounds, and a diet book with just one instruction: don't eat. This Barbie looked ready for a sleepover with her pink pajamas, curlers, and fluffy slippers. She had the same glamorous face and impossible proportions as regular Barbie, but now, with accessories that explicitly told girls that maintaining an unrealistic weight should be a priority. What made this toy particularly problematic was the blatant messaging about body image it sent to impressionable young girls. The idea that a perfect doll needed to perpetually diet and monitor her weight normalized potentially harmful behaviors and attitudes. My mother, ahead of her time, replaced Slumber Party Barbie's diet book with a tiny notebook she made herself that said, "Things I love about me," and threw the scale away. "Barbie has better things to do at sleepovers than worry about her weight," she explained. It was my first lesson in critical thinking about toys and media messages, though I didn't realize it until decades later.
Trapped by enemy agents. I'd play it cool. Just want to hear a little music.
Number 8. Mattel's Agent Zero M Sonic Blaster, released in 1965 by Mattel. Did your favorite childhood toy have the potential to damage your hearing? The Agent Zero M Sonic Blaster was essentially a portable air cannon disguised as a futuristic space weapon, and it packed a serious punch. This oversized gray gun with its distinctive red barrel looked like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Instead of firing projectiles, it compressed air and released it with a powerful concussive blast that could literally knock objects off shelves from several feet away. What made this toy particularly dangerous was the incredible volume and pressure it created. When fired near someone's ears, it could cause actual pain and potential hearing damage. Parents had no idea they were arming their children with what amounted to sonic weapons. During a particularly intense spy game, I fired my sonic blaster directly next to my brother's ear. The emergency room doctor later explained to my horrified parents what temporary tinnitus was, while my brother dramatically claimed he could hear colors for the rest of the afternoon. My sonic blaster mysteriously disappeared that night, though I occasionally heard its distinctive sound coming from my father's workshop. Now, if you thought that was loud, wait until you hear about a seemingly innocent kitchen toy.
Easy bake, fast as you can. Mix 'em up for a minute.
Number 7. Easy Bake Oven, first released in 1963 by Kenner Products. Remember when your toy oven could actually bake real treats and occasionally cause real burns? If you had an Easy Bake Oven in the 60s, you probably felt like a master chef whipping up tiny cakes right in your bedroom. This miniature oven functioned using a very real 100-watt incandescent light bulb. Kids would mix little packets of cake mix, pour them into tiny pans, and slide them into the oven where that scalding hot bulb would actually bake them into edible treats. What made this toy concerning was that it operated at temperatures reaching 350 degrees Fahrenheit, the same as a real oven, but with far fewer safety features and positioned at the perfect height for curious young fingers. Jenny's mom walked in, just as we were trying to put out her smoldering bangs with a squirt gun. The oven was donated to Goodwill that same afternoon. Years later at our high school reunion, Jenny still had a slightly uneven hairline, which she called her Easy Bake reminder to read warning labels. And speaking of toys that reached dangerous temperatures,
Here's what a Vac-U-Form can do. Look at the things.
Number 6. Vac-U-Form, released in 1962 by Mattel. Ever wanted to run your own miniature plastic factory right in your bedroom? The Vac-U-Form was essentially an industrial thermoforming machine scaled down for children, complete with all the burn risks of the real thing. This desktop factory consisted of a heating element on one side and a vacuum forming platform on the other. You'd place a small sheet of plastic over the heater until it became soft and pliable, then quickly flip it over onto a mold and pull down the handle to create suction. What made this toy particularly hazardous was the combination of extreme heat, enough to melt plastic, and no safety guards. Burns were practically guaranteed, and the acrid smell of heated plastic-filled rooms with who knows what toxic fumes. I became our street's unofficial trophy maker, creating plastic medallions for our bike races and skateboard contests. Mom only discovered I'd been running my factory when the electric bill doubled. My entrepreneurial spirit was dampened somewhat when Dad calculated I was spending $3 in electricity to make each 25-cent trophy, making it perhaps my first lesson in business economics. If you thought melting plastic was questionable, wait until you hear about toys designed to potentially rupture eardrums.
Unbelievable, but true. You blast out the air and the target breaks up.
Number 5. Wham-O Air Blaster, released in 1965 by Wham-O. Remember that toy gun that didn't need ammunition because it weaponized air itself? The Wham-O Air Blaster looked like something from a sci-fi movie, a large futuristic pistol with a distinctive red barrel that packed a surprising punch without firing a single projectile. This strange contraption worked by pulling back a plunger to compress air inside the barrel. When you pulled the trigger, it released that compressed air with enough force to blow papers off a desk from across the room or ruffle someone's hair from several feet away. What made this toy particularly concerning was that firing it directly into someone's ear could potentially damage their eardrum. There were actual reports of hearing injuries when children inevitably discovered that blasting air into ears produced a dramatic reaction. I discovered that pointing the air blaster at a lit birthday candle from 6 feet away could extinguish it instantly. This trick briefly made me the most popular kid at parties until I miscalculated during my demonstration at Grandma's 70th birthday. The cake survived, but her carefully styled hair collapsed completely on one side. My air blaster privileges were permanently revoked after what became known as the hairdo incident. And speaking of toys that caused unintended chaos.
Superball! Look, it's almost alive. It bounces and bounces, keeps going and going.
Number 4. Superballs were released in 1965 by Wham-O. Did your favorite childhood toy ricochet around the room like it had a mind of its own? Superballs were those incredibly bouncy rubber spheres that seemed to defy physics with their ability to reach astonishing heights and unpredictable trajectories. These innocent-looking rubber balls came in various bright colors and sizes, but had one thing in common. They bounced with exceptional elasticity, reaching heights up to 6 times higher than a regular rubber ball when dropped. What made these seemingly simple toys dangerous was the incredible velocity they could achieve when bounced with force in enclosed spaces. They could easily break windows, knock over valuables, and cause genuine injuries when they inevitably ricocheted in unexpected directions. I bounced one off our concrete steps with such force that it shot across the street, through the neighbor's open car window, and hit their gear shift. The car rolled down the driveway and stopped inches from their mailbox. Dad implemented the outdoor-only Superball policy after that, though I noticed him testing its bounce in his study when he thought no one was watching. And if unpredictable bouncing wasn't exciting enough for 60s kids, some toys strapped that instability directly to their feet. Number 3. Moon Shoes, released in 1969 by Transogram. Remember strapping what were essentially mini trampolines to your feet and thinking it was a good idea? Moon Shoes promised to let kids experience walking on the moon, but usually delivered a crash course in gravity instead. These strange contraptions looked like oversized plastic sandals with thick elastic bands stretched across the bottom. You'd strap your regular shoes into them with Velcro or rubber straps, instantly adding several inches to your height and a dangerous level of instability to your stride. What made these particular hazards so problematic was their fundamental design flaw. They were inherently unstable platforms attached to children's feet. The ankle injuries, falls, and collisions were so common that they were practically part of the intended play pattern. After receiving moon shoes for my birthday, I convinced myself I could jump from our porch railing to the yard. The shoes worked perfectly. I did indeed experience momentary weightlessness, followed by a very moon-like crater in our lawn and a sprained ankle that kept me earthbound for the next 3 weeks. Mom still brings up the moon shoes incident whenever I mention trying anything remotely adventurous. And if physically dangerous toys weren't enough, some were designed to be psychologically disturbing as well.
Little Miss No Name. She's the doll who needs more loving care than any doll you've ever had.
Number 2. Little Miss No Name, 1965. Did your childhood toy collection include a doll that seemed designed to make you feel guilty? Little Miss No Name was perhaps the strangest marketing concept of the 1960s. A doll that wasn't pretty, happy, or aspirational, but rather looked desperately sad and needy. This peculiar doll had an oversized head with enormous sad eyes that seemed to stare right into your soul. A single tear was permanently affixed to her cheek, and she wore a tattered burlap dress with a small plastic hand outstretched, literally begging for attention and care. What made this toy particularly bizarre was how it weaponized guilt as a play pattern. Instead of the usual nurturing that dolls encouraged, Little Miss No Name manipulated children's emotions with her pathetic appearance, essentially training kids to respond to emotional manipulation. I remember my friend's Little Miss No Name always getting special treatment among her dolls. We'd find ourselves giving her the best spot at tea parties and the softest blanket during pretend bedtime. Looking back, it's remarkable how effectively this strange, sad-faced doll could trigger genuine empathy and concern in children who knew perfectly well she was just plastic and fabric.
In the 1950s, she was all the rage. Little Miss Betsy Wetsy needed diaper change.
Number 1. Betsy Wetsy redesigned version released in 1962 by Ideal Toy Company. Remember that doll that took lifelike a bit too literally? If you had a Betsy Wetsy in the 1960s, you essentially signed up for a crash course in baby care, complete with the messier aspects that most toy manufacturers would rather gloss over. This baby doll looked innocent enough with her chubby cheeks and sweet expression, typically dressed in a cute little outfit with a bottle accessory. The gimmick was simple but effective. You'd feed Betsy water from her bottle and she would naturally wet her diaper, just like a real baby. What made this toy particularly strange wasn't the wetting mechanism itself, but the fact that the internal rubber bladder and tubing would often develop mold and bacteria when not properly cleaned and dried. That cute doll could quickly become a science experiment in microbial growth. My sister loved her Betsy Wetsy until the day Mom decided to perform surgery to find the source of the doll's increasingly foul odor. The horrifying growth inside the doll's rubber bladder became an impromptu science lesson. Mom, ever practical, turned it into a teaching moment about proper hygiene while my sister stood solemnly by, holding a makeshift funeral for her beloved Betsy later that afternoon. That's crazy to think these bizarre vintage toys were actually in the hands of kids across America. If you enjoyed this walk down memory lane with the strangest 1960s toys ever made, you're going to absolutely love our next video. Hit that subscribe button right now to join our vintage nostalgia community. The creepy crawlers and Vac-U-Form might be collecting dust in attics, but our exploration of forgotten childhood treasures is just getting started. Looking back at these unusual toys from the 1960s reminds us that sometimes the most memorable parts of childhood were the things that probably shouldn't have existed in the first place. See you in the next one.